Welcome to the Partizan podcast. I'm Ben. I'm here with Jake O'Driscoll. Jake is the owner and head coach of Essence BJJ in Perth. You're the coach of some very high-level athletes, including Adele Fornarino, who we have with us here, and a competitor yourself. And the woman who needs no introduction, but I'll give her one anyway, Adele Fornarino, the champ, the ADCC double gold medalist, who's #1 reigning champion and #1 pound for pound on flow grappling. Some would say the lady goat. I'll say the lady goat. We've got a favor to ask. If you're enjoying this podcast, make sure to like, subscribe, and send the episode to a friend of yours. It really helps the podcast grow and lets us continue doing this. Back to the show. Thanks for coming, guys. I'd love to get started with how you got into jiu-jitsu.
How did I get into jiu-jitsu? I started jiu-jitsu when I was about 9 or 10 years old. And I got into jiu-jitsu because at the time I wanted to be a police officer. So I'm like, okay, what's going to help me catch the bad guys and, get the cats out of trees and whatnot, all that kind of heroic shit. And martial arts was the thing that came to mind, like starting a martial art, any martial art. And we quickly Googled what the closest martial arts center was to us. Didn't do any research on what martial art was the best one. We just kind of picked any martial art was closest. Happened to be jiu-jitsu, happened to be a really good gym. It was Dominance in Richmond at the time. And the kids coach, who was David Christopher, was a fantastic kids coach and made the classes very engaging. And I just really enjoyed it and haven't stopped since.
So if it happened to be a karate gym, your life would be completely different. Do you ever think about that?
Karate. Yeah, for sure. It's like I've bounced around through a number of different sports, and it's the luck at the end of the day. It honestly comes down to luck with who I've been introduced to, how this journey has happened. There's definitely some hard work that goes into it, but there's also a little bit of luck in that journey.
At what point, we'll get to Jake in a second, but at what point, I'm stuck on this cop story. At what point in the journey did you decide to switch from being a police officer to pursuing jiu-jitsu full time?
That's a very good question. So I finished high school, straight out of high school, went into university because, to be fair, that was just something that was really important to my family. Mm-hmm. And, I wanted to make them proud. So I went through a university degree, finished that.
What did you study?
Health science.
Oh, lovely.
So I have a very expensive piece of paper. Not to diss anybody in the health science degree.
Shout out health science.
I know.
Graduates.
But at the end of that, I was competing through my entire university degree, and I was traveling, and I was actually doing less university. So I was doing like a half load of university so that I could train and travel more, and really enjoyed that aspect of jiu-jitsu in general. The competition scene was something that I really enjoyed. Getting to travel and that kind of stuff was something that I really enjoyed. And by the time I was done university, I didn't want anything that I then did after university to impact my ability to train and compete. And going into the police force would have, that was that tipping point of I either needed to make the decision of going into the police force and kind of giving up my career as a jiu-jitsu athlete, or double down and commit into jiu-jitsu. And for me, I went to the jiu-jitsu path because I always knew that I could come back and, if all else fails, go back into the police force as well.
Was that a challenging decision to make, or did it feel like it made a lot of sense at the time?
No, to be fair, it was very challenging.
Yeah.
I had a lot of doubt at that point in time whether or not jiu-jitsu was going to be a career for me. Jiu-jitsu is very fun and it's engaging, and all these things make it so fulfilling. But there's also the flip side of that, where the adult side of me goes, can I actually make a financial career in this? Like, one day I want to own a house and have a family and support my family. And part of that is making responsible decisions on how can I best support the people around me financially. And at the start, I wasn't sure whether jiu-jitsu was going to be able to offer me that. I knew that it was going to be able to offer me a lot of joy and I was going to have fun in that career. But with a lot of hard work and a lot of just being specific with how I'm managing all the different things that come with being an athlete, I'm able to financially support myself and be an athlete and continue that journey.
Can you talk about the people around you and their kind of reactions or support or lack of support during that time period? Because I'm sure there would be people that would be super supportive, and there might be others that might be a bit concerned. Because there might be listeners right now that want to pursue jiu-jitsu full time, and they might have friends and family around them that are discouraging them, and they're not too sure how to handle that. Did you find that people were mostly supportive? Did you have challenging conversations as well?
That's a good question. I was really lucky, to be fair. Most of the people around me were incredibly supportive. Like, my family, my parents were both corporate. So my dad was in sales, my mum was in banking, even my brother's gone into data science. So they've worked corporate jobs. So I was kind of the black sheep of the family. And I say that not in a bad way, because I chose a different path, but I was never deterred from doing that. My family was nothing but supportive. My mum actually traveled around the world with me when I was younger to go to these competitions. And when I was younger, she was paying my flights and paying my registration. She was motivating me to do the thing that I really enjoyed. I sat down with my family and with my partner as well. And that was a scary conversation, because it was, hey, I really believe in this and want to do it. And it was scary because I didn't know what their reaction was going to be, but it was support along like every angle that I could have possibly got support from. I got support. So my partner, my fiance, she motivated me to do it. She's like, if we're going to do this, let's do it. Let's do it right. And let's do it with everything we got. My coaches around me, when I was in Perth, even Jake just gave me some of that self-belief of, no, we can do this. Like, let's do it. My early coaches motivated me and encouraged me, David Christopher, David Hart, all these people that were around me, they believed in me, and that helped a lot, for sure.
Wow. Jake, let's bring you into this. I'd love to know. Hey guys. Me too. I'd love to know how you started training, how jiu-jitsu became such an important part of your life, and then how you crossed paths with Adele as well.
Yeah, cool. So I started a bit later. I was 19. I was playing semi-pro football at the time, like AFL rules kind of thing. I thought my whole life I was going to get drafted. Played through the state system my whole life. Didn't get drafted. The feedback from my management and the teams that I was working out with and stuff was that I wasn't fit enough. So I went to boxing, to get fitter, start boxing. We hired a private boxing coach, and he was like, you should do some wrestling with these guys. There's some guys doing jiu-jitsu. And I was like, no way, that looks stupid. Ended up wrestling with these guys, got absolutely mauled by a purple belt, and basically quit football on the spot to do jiu-jitsu. So I had the opposite of Adele. My family were like, what are you doing?
Just one session is all it took. You took one session.
Yeah, literally. I was like, I didn't play again for the team. I was playing the state league at the time. I didn't play again for that team. And I knew straight away that's what I wanted to do. And then, just from there, built it. Adele came over around COVID time, maybe 2020. We'd known each other from the circuit. Like, I traveled a lot, full-time competing, and Adele was always a wonder kid. Like, she's always been amazing at jiu-jitsu, Like, I talk about this a lot, actually. Like, she was always good at jiu-jitsu. When she came to my gym, she was already good, So credit to her coaches, they made her the athlete that she was. So I was actually looking for a training partner for my partner at the time, who was a purple belt, who's a high-level brown belt now. And I saw Adele was in town and around the same weight. And I was like, if I can get her in, I can get, Bam Bam better training. And then Adele came down and, we just clicked, and she enjoyed the training, and she enjoyed my coaching style. And we just hit it off from there and started coaching. And then when they moved back after being in Perth, we just kept that relationship up. We got a really fun dynamic where, like, I do coach her and she is athlete, but we're also really close friends, and not just her partner and her family. I talk to her dad all the time, her mum, as well. So, like, we have a real interesting dynamic where we can not cross the line, but like really keep the line of like athlete and coach, but then also like, okay, we're friends as well. So like, we just kept that relationship, and then since it's working, we just keep it going,
Yeah, I'd love to know how you see the role of a coach, especially at these highest levels.
Yeah, I mean, it's different, man, in my opinion, and like it can be a controversial opinion, but like what I do with Adele is not what like a normal gym owner would do with their students. Like, we talk all day, every day. I go over all her footage. I go through every issue she has. If she's got an issue in her off the mat stuff, we'll look at that. If it impacts on the mat stuff, like absolutely everything. So there's another level to it. I don't really see myself as a coach because I'm not trying to technically advance her in that regard. I'm trying to make her a better athlete and make her a better competitor, regardless of what my definition of a role is. I think one of the biggest misconceptions of athletes is they walk into a gym and they want to be the world champion, and they expect the person that owns or runs the gym to make them a world champion. And that's just unfair, because if you walk into a gym and they don't want to do that, then you guys are going to resent each other because you want different things. Adele came to me and said, I want to be, she was already a world champion, but she wanted to win black belt worlds and ADCC and stuff like that. And I said, I can help with that. So our relationship worked. I didn't pretend that I couldn't help with that. You know what I mean? Whereas that's where it really crosses those lines. And I think, you know, we spoke about this a little bit off camera. It's a weird thing because like, I'm not great at marketing. I'm not great at like socializing. I'm not great at being your best friend, but I can help you get better at jiu-jitsu. But that's my niche. And I have friends that do the opposite. They're way better at marketing. They have probably the most fun open mats I could go to, the most fun gym environment, but that's their niche, you know? So we just try and stick to what we're good at. And with her especially, like her goal is to be the best ever. Not the best female, not the best no-gi athlete, the best ever. So the mindset that it takes for her is completely different to how I would treat somebody else. But we understand that, you know what I mean? So as long as we keep that understanding, then we're all good. You know what I mean? It's not for everybody. You know, how many players are in the NBA, but how many actually want to be Michael Jordan or in that conversation? Not many. You know what I mean? So it's different. Yeah.
You spoke about mindset. I'd love to touch from the thoughts from both of you on sports psychology or mindset. Is there anything you do that's particularly unique, or how do you approach the mindset of competing at the highest level?
Okay. Man, I study a lot. You know, I've studied for a very long time in terms of like athletes, not just athletes, but anybody with like that really hardened mindset of, you know, achieving goals and achieving success. I live a lot by the theory of having no excuses. I take full responsibility for everything in my life and accountability, good or bad. I'm not a perfect human. I don't think anyone is. I mess up all the time, but I will take responsibility for it. And I try and pass that on to, you know, my athletes. Professionalism, you know, number one. Adele is the utmost professional. So we try and pass that on. So I try and take from a lot of these other sportsmen and put them into practice for her because the blueprint is already there. So when we talk about being a professional, instantly people think about money. A professional is LeBron James that makes $100 million a year. No, a professional is someone that has that mindset. You know what I mean? That nothing's going to stop them. They're not going to make excuses. They're going to knock down every wall to achieve their goals. The money will come. Yeah. So for her, it's like, how do we make her believe that when the money isn't there, that she is a professional? And it all just comes from, here's an example. So one that I can put to her specifically is her partner, Nev, was an amazing tennis player. For me, I like tennis, but I don't love tennis. But to get through to Adele what I want mentality-wise, I need someone around her all the time that can explain the intricacies of it. So I use tennis as an example because Nev now picks up on what I'm saying. Adele now picks up on what I'm saying, and I'm saying it. So now we have this triangle that we're all on the same page through a sport that people don't think has any connection with jiu-jitsu. But now when she's at home and I'm not there, it's feeding into her brain. You know, so it's these extra details that we go through that I think really help her to be the best in the world. And I tell her this all the time, that I think she'd be the best in the world whether I was here or not. I think I help a little bit, but it's not the sole reason. But I think the fact that she chases all these small little details consistently, you saw today, you know what I mean? Like we worked for an hour today because I haven't seen her in 2 months, so we're just going over things. We didn't have to do that, but she will, and she'll ask questions. She might already know the answer, but she's going to ask anyway because she wants to get that little bit better. Yeah. So we really push that boundary.
Adele, I'd love to know from your perspective as the athlete, what it's like to compete at the highest level. Do you still get nervous? And how does this mindset and preparation help you?
I think anybody that says they don't get nervous is lying.
They're full of shit. You heard it here first. You're all full of shit if you say you don't get nervous.
She said about an hour ago, you know, that she's feeling the nerves for her match tonight, which is great. You know what I mean? And I said, that's perfect because you care. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I think it definitely like that. And that's exactly the case. If you're not feeling nervous, then how much do you care about winning and losing? And I get nervous before every single competition I do, local stuff, international stuff, biggest competitions in the world stuff. Like I get nervous. And like how I manage that nerves is a practice skill. Like I've been competing for 15, 16 years and I didn't walk onto the mats one day perfectly able to compete and having the perfect equation and knowing all the intricacies of what I need as an athlete and what I need from the people around me. It took a really long time for me to actually put that puzzle together. And it comes down to what I need the night before, nutrition-wise, what I need, you know, in the environment, in the house that I'm staying at, what I need from, you know, Nev, my partner, what I need from my coach, When I wake up in the morning, what's for breakfast? How much water am I drinking? You know, what's my ritual? What music am I listening to in the car? All those little things, as much as we don't think play a part, they do. They impact us. And it took me a while to get that equation going, and doing things like competition, like competing in Australia, allow me to sharpen those things, allow me to like not overlook those things and not just walk onto the mat unorganized and unprepared for what's ahead. So I'm nervous because I care about it. I care about the performance that I have. I care about what I want to give to the audience that's out there and my competitor as well that's in front of me.
Just to summarize so I understand, it's almost like you've identified exactly what you can control. You like identified, this is what I need from my partner, this is what I need from my coach, this is what I need from the people in my house, this is what I need for my breakfast.
Yep.
And you're only focusing on that, and everything else, you're not focusing on what you can't control.
I'm focusing on all the controllable things.
The controllable things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes like that means if you're actually with me the day of a competition, like I'm not the nicest and funnest person to be around.
You're competing tonight. You're pretty fun, I think.
I'm like right now, and the cameras are on and the microphones and they got funky glasses on, so you know. But like when it comes down to like crunch time, like I'm not the most enjoyable person to be around because I'm like eyes on the prize, and I'm trying to focus and make sure that I'm putting all my energy and effort into the thing that I want to achieve in. And the people around me know that. Like the people around me know the rituals. Like Jake messaged me the other day when he got here, and he's like, what do I need to get from the supermarket? And I'm like, you know me best. It's a banana and a blue Powerade, you know, and just those things. Whether or not I eat the banana or drink the blue Powerade doesn't matter. But I have those things because those are things that offer me comfort and that I ritually have before I compete.
Yep.
So I stick to that routine. Doesn't matter how big the competition is, how small the competition is, does not matter. We stick to a routine.
Stick to the routine.
Yeah.
I'd love to switch gears and talk about your experience in the States. So a lot of your training has been overseas and ATOS. I'd love to know your experience of cross training and traveling overseas and what that's like.
So I've done a lot of cross training. I've had the privilege of being in, you know, many of the best rooms in the world. I've been in some of the best rooms in the world that aren't known for being some of the best rooms in the world, but just they have a lot of talent and they have a very good culture in the space. And I don't think there's one way to do it. I don't think there's you know, one particular structure that needs to be implemented. I know what I need as an athlete. I know what I need as a competitor, and part of that is making sure that culturally that I gel with the people in the space, so that the culture in the space is something that I enjoy. I compete best when I'm actually enjoying what I'm doing. It's the whole reason I do jiu-jitsu. You know, there's no guarantee of any, big gold bucket at the end of the rainbow, but I enjoy jiu-jitsu, so I want to be in an environment where I enjoy training, and I go out of my way to put myself in those environments. So I've been in environments where the training is excellent, but I personally didn't gel with that culture. So I needed to find a space that was best for me.
Yeah. Something I've also noticed that's quite unique and, to be honest, quite refreshing is being open about getting the best training from different environments and from different coaches.
Yeah.
You see a lot of this in martial arts where people feel strong pressure to align to one gym and one coach. And a lot of times if they end up leaving that coach or that gym, there's a lot of drama, there's a lot of issues. But what's so nice about you guys is like that openness of this is what I need to be the best athlete, and everyone's there to support you. And it seems like a win-win for everyone.
Absolutely. I think it's really important that I think as a coach, you have to understand what you're good at and where you have gaps, and understand that you may not necessarily be able to fill those gaps, and not feel resentful at an athlete for trying to fill those gaps in other ways. It's because of the way that jiu-jitsu works, because of the hierarchy system, because of the, what would you call it? The people feel that they owe something to the coaches around them. And that's what builds some of these really big explosive split ups between athletes and coaches and athletes and gyms. And I think that it's important that coaches learn how to deal with other coaches and work in a holistic way with multiple different people, and recognize that it's beneficial for the athlete. And at the end of the day, that's the whole point.
That's the job,
right? Is the athlete going to achieve what they want to achieve? How can we best do that? And you see it in other sports. Jake uses basketball a lot, and we talk about Stephen Curry using his shooting coach. You know, he's not just using the coach that's provided by his team. he's going out of his way to find other sources to improve his game. That to me is very important.
Yeah. I've got a question for both of you. We'll start with you, Adele. If you could change one thing about our industry or the way things are run, what would you change? If you had a magic
I
wand.
thought you were going to be like, what's one thing you'd change about Jake?
What do you hate about this man? That's for off camera.
Probably when I'm straight. Probably what it is.
Yeah, shit.
Probably when I'm straight.
Yeah, I'd make him gay in a
You'd
heart.
make him gay. That's for later.
100%.
We're professional guys.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, what?
I can't remember the question. It was a really good question though.
If I could change...
If you could change one thing about the industry or the way things are conducted, what would you change?
That's
It can be as ambitious as you want.
as ambitious as I want. I think
About the business model, about how athletes are treated, about how competitions are run.
Come on, there's too many things.
For the most.
So like there's different things. I think that the talking from like an athlete perspective, like them athletes in general, like fighting for what they deserve, I think is really important, and for fight promotions not to take advantage of athletes for either their inability to read contracts properly or not having a supportive network around them that understand like negotiation and that side of things. But even just in a smaller sense of gym to gym, like the intensity that comes with the hierarchy in gyms, I think that is, it has a habit of creeping into some toxic areas where just because you have a black belt, you can treat somebody in a particular way. I don't agree with that. I think that, there's always been hazing in the culture, like black belts will haze the white belts and things like that. But when it gets into just flat out, the white belt is just a subordinate and doing what they're told, I think we're creeping into some dangerous territory, especially and unfortunately when we bring it to a male black belt and a female white belt, that dynamic I don't think is a very healthy dynamic.
Yeah, we've spoken about this offline and we'd come to the realization you couldn't make a more potentially dangerous power dynamic environment than a lot of jiu-jitsu gyms, unfortunately.
It is very unfortunate, and I think because more females are moving into the space, they have a bigger community that can see and notice when these things are happening. So it's getting caught out a little bit earlier and more often, but it still happens. It definitely still happens.
Jake?
Yeah, I'm on the same wavelength. I think that influence that people have, due to the hierarchy of the belt system and the way it's been around for a long time, the way that, I was taught how to treat the black belts, and then that just, no one teaches you how to change that. So then you just follow that along and whatnot. I think like that could definitely be an issue that could be fixed. I think it is a lot easier to fix than people think. The more people just stand up and say no. You know what I mean? Like, you're not always going to get along with everybody, but you can spot pretty easily what is actually just a disagreement between two people and what is actually a toxic environment. So I think that's a big one. And like, I think the issue with the females is massive. I think it's extremely unfortunate. I have a daughter, obviously coach some of the best females in the world, so I get to see a different perspective as well. And I get to see both sides of what they're fighting for and then also what the argument is. And I think there's a lot more common ground than people think there is. But there's also so much chaos that people don't see that. You know what I mean? I think if people just slow down a little bit and were able to listen to what they're actually saying, not what they think they're saying, you would actually see that, okay, they just want to be treated fairly and respectfully. It always gets cross-contaminated with the money issue, right? She wants to get paid like Gordon Ryan gets paid, and then she gets called out because she wants a certain thing. Well, maybe listen to her at first, and maybe it's not the money issue, it's the respect issue. If she's doing the things that need to be done to be put in that position, then sure, she's backing up what she's saying. Yeah. So I think that's a big one, man. I think, like I said, it just needs to be addressed a little bit better and in better circles. When I say better circles, it comes back to that hierarchy. We can get it to a certain point, but then if this hierarchy doesn't want to listen, then we're just going to go back down here. That's not just males. I think sometimes the females in the sport too, and she will agree. They'll agree with each other to a certain point, and then they'll fight each other over it, and then they push each other back down, and that's unfortunate too.
Yep. I'll circle back, Adele. You mentioned about athletes standing up for themselves and potentially not understanding the contracts they're signing or potentially being taken advantage of by these organizations. Can you talk about what advice you'd have for yourself or any athletes that are listening to this. They're focused purely on the jiu-jitsu. They might not have an understanding of how the business works and what they should be standing up for themselves. Like, when should they stand up for themselves? When should they just accept the opportunity? We'll put that in quotes.
There's a very slippery slope between like opportunity and just flat out being taken advantage of. I think that athletes need to recognize that they're not lawyers. They're not managers. They're not like, they are not, generally speaking, not well versed in that side of things. So to source out help in those things and people that are, you know, more aware of contractual agreements and obligations, I think that's very important, to go out of their way to find somebody to assist in that side of things. An athlete that's working by themselves needs to be so many things. A lawyer, a manager, a content creator, you know, all these things that they would just want to do jiu-jitsu. Like, I just want to do jiu-jitsu.
Just want to train.
So like seeking out help is really important. And, you know, sometimes it is a matter of like, you have to know your worth. You have to understand like what value you actually hold and how that impacts these fight promotions. Yeah. So if, you know, I want my job, and me and Jake talk about this all the time. My job is to get to a point in my career where it's just undeniable, where it would be silly to not have me on a card or give me the opportunity, and that's my job to fight to that point. But until I get there, I have to negotiate appropriately with all the fight promotions to make sure that I can actually have the events that I need to have.
Yeah, Jake, your thoughts on this? Because you coach a lot of athletes, both at the highest level and up and coming athletes as well. Do you have any advice for them when it comes to?
Man, you'll find with me, hopefully not too much on this podcast. I'm pretty repetitive, man. I think it comes back down to responsibility and accountability. You know what I mean? If Adele gets a contract, it's her responsibility to do the right things to make sure it works for her, right? She's done that. She's got a manager or whatnot. Especially in the jiu-jitsu space, there's people that you can talk to that will offer help or help you out. If you take that advice, you got to take accountability for it. You know what I mean? If you take an opportunity and you think that it's going to help pay off in the future and it doesn't, which I've done, she's done, you got to take accountability for it. You got to be responsible, right? So it's just about educating yourself consistently. Don't just go with the flow because you're too lazy to do anything about it. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I got this contract. I don't understand what it means. Ask someone or find someone. You know what I mean? Jiu-jitsu is amazing for that. The community is amazing for people that want to help. And also there's so many different careers that people do jiu-jitsu. You could go to an open mat and you'll find that lawyer that'll be like, oh, that term just means this, man. Actually, I probably wouldn't sign that because it is. You know what I mean? So I try not to deal, definitely, I mean, Adele's the only one that I would, but deal too much with the athletes and their contracts. She'll mention stuff to me and just get my thoughts. But that's one line that, like we spoke about, that I don't want to cross. Yep. Just because, again, it's not my expertise, number one. But two, when it comes to money, it's her life. She doesn't tell me how to spend my money or what I should be earning, and vice versa. So like, I don't want to get involved and be like, no, you should be getting more, or you should be getting less. It's like, I'm just here to help her be a better athlete.
Makes complete sense.
So I just think, again, man, it comes back down to taking responsibility for it. So if Adele brought a problem to me and she was just whinging about it, I'd be like, okay, well, what's the solution? Sure. Don't just whinge about it. What are we going to do? So she brought a problem to me last night that I'm going to think about. I'm going to go and do some research. I'm going to talk to some people that I know, and then I'm going to give her my opinion. Now, whether she takes it or not, she knows I don't care. Like, I care, but I'm not going to be upset if she doesn't. But that's what I'm going to do. Yep. I'm not going to sit there and be like, you should do this. Yeah. No, I'm going to try to figure it out first. So that's like what I think, especially if you want to cross that barrier to that next level. That's the difference between if you're just doing this for fun and you're getting on a super fight show or your tournaments and stuff for fun, or you want to be that next level. Yep. That next level is that. There's no way LeBron James is signing a contract that 10 people haven't looked at.
Makes complete sense.
You know what I mean? And okay, again, it comes back down to it. No, we're not making LeBron money, but we want to be LeBron professional. Yep. So that's what we're going to do.
Yep. Adele, you spoke about being undeniable. Let's talk about the ADCC wins, double gold. Take me back to how that felt. So as you won the first gold and the second gold, let's talk about the experience.
It felt very different between the two of us. So winning, it's always like fun to look back on those matches and think about kind of how I felt. Because when I won my division, it felt like the hard work that we had put in was always going to lead there. And it was kind of like, it was the, let's say, the argument of a better phrase, the destiny of the time and energy that we had put in. I felt like with what we did leading up to that camp, I felt like I deserved to end up on top. But when it came to the open weight division, that was a nice surprise. That was just almost reassurance that we had done all the right things within that camp. So I was in not only in a position to win my division, but also to win the open weight division against people that were significantly bigger than me. But that also, like, going through that open weight division came with its tough times, because I had to fight some friends of mine, some people that I'm very close to, some people that I had training camps with, some people that I've traveled around the world with, and that was its own struggle.
Talk to me about that. That sounds like the perfect training camp, because you basically won gold and thought, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Based on what we just did.
Well, that's what a training camp should be like. Like, you should get to the end of your training camp. And I'm not saying that you get to the end of your training camp and you're like, everything was perfect and my body feels amazing. It's very rare that you get to the end of a training camp and your body's not a little bit beaten up and you're not a bit sore, you don't carry an injury here or there. But you want to get to the end of a training camp, look back on it and be like, no, I did everything. Like, I did all the recovery, I did all the strength conditioning, I did all the drilling, I did all the tape study, I talked to the right people. Like, the worst thing that you could possibly do, the most disservice to yourself that you could do, is by getting to the end of that training camp and be like, fuck, I wish I'd done it differently. Like, and that, like, to circle back on what we talked about before, it's like, competing is a practice skill. Training camps, developing training camps is a practice skill as well. So our training camp, you know, wasn't an 8-week training camp. It was an 18-month plan, if not longer than that.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh, you know, that training camp would have been really good. Well, no, all the matches, all the decisions that we made leading into trials, leading into, you know, the year before our trials, so that gap year, all of that, is like, as soon as I did my first ADCC, the next day, like, that's where the planning started. That's where, okay, how do we get our ducks in a row to make sure by the time ADCC swings around in 2 years' time, that we're ready to go.
The very next day, straight to work.
She honestly did that after ADCC too. Like, the day after ADCC, I think I was stretching in the living room and she come and sit next to me and she's like, it's not enough. Like, I want to be the best ever. And I was like, yeah, let's just enjoy this. She's like, no, like, this is what I want. Like, can we do this? And I was like, yeah, we can. It's going to take a lot though. And like, that was her mindset 24 hours after winning ADCC. So like, that doesn't come from winning ADCC. That comes from the years before of her grinding and being like, hitting obstacles and failing and losing and getting back up and being like, no, actually, I can do this. Yeah. And we can achieve this. And like, that wasn't a gimmick, you know? Yeah. Like, that wasn't her just telling me what I wanted to hear as a coach. You know, I was the opposite. I'm like, no, I'm done. I'm out. Like, I got two.
Saying he's going to retire.
See where I'm at. Like, he's like, no. Like, this is what I want. And it was cool to see, because I was like, you know, that's the kind of athlete I've always wanted to coach. Yeah. I know that. I'm a massive Kobe Bryant fan. So like, that Mamba mentality of like, it's not enough. Yeah. You know, there's more. But yeah, that was her mentality. So it's cool to see.
How do you balance that, Adele, between enjoying? To me, you've just climbed to the very top of the mountain, but apparently there's more mountain to climb. How do you balance that between enjoying what you've just achieved or completely sending it to the very end?
So you say like I'm at the top. I feel like I've just started. Yeah. I feel like I've only had don't even have the first degree on my black belt yet.
Wow.
Like,
how old are you, by the way? I'm 25 years old.
I feel like I'm at the beginning. Like, I feel like I've just started the journey. But I get enjoyment out of hard training camps. Yeah. Like, I find the enjoyment. I sometimes need to catch myself out and be like, who else gets to do this? Yeah. Who else gets to spend time with some of the best people in the world, training and working on something and developing a skill and being at the top level of things? Who else gets to do it? When I compete, and sometimes you'll see it, like when I'm on the side of the mats, something that I try and make myself do is like, I force myself to smile. Because like, if you do the research on it, like, you get a dopamine hit just from even a fake smile. Yeah. Your body will still release serotonin and it'll have all these positive impacts on your like central nervous system. But it's just like reminding myself, like, hey, this is pretty cool. Yeah. Like, this is a pretty cool thing I'm doing. So enjoy it and take a moment to take it in. We've worked hard to be here. We've done all the things to be here. Now you get to go out there and prove that all that hard work was for a purpose.
That's such a powerful statement. Like, who else gets to do this?
Like, and that's not to detract from anybody else that's in a different line of work. You know, again, both my parents work corporate.
Yeah.
So I was very used to them waking up. Like, my mum wakes up at 6 a.m., goes on a 5K run, gets ready, goes to work.
Yeah.
Like, world domination. She's incredible. And then comes home, and that was her routine. That's what I always grew up with. And I saw that, and I'm like, that's awesome. I want to do something different, though. I want to do my own type of world domination. And that's in the athletic space. That's in being an athlete.
So right now you're number 1 pound for pound, but I'd love to circle back on any setbacks or challenges that you've had that were a blessing in disguise coming up.
It's the classic. Like, I've learned the most from the matches that I've lost. And that seems super cliche, but it's so true.
Yeah.
You know, the ADCC that I was in wasn't my first ADCC. It was my second ADCC. And the biggest mistake that I made with the first run at ADCC that I had won the trials after we did a very hard but good training camp out of Essence in Perth. Won that. Didn't go into that trials with high expectations that I was winning that, but won quite dominantly through those matches. I think 4 submissions, and I won by points in the finals against a very good friend of mine who now I train with on the daily, Nigel Franklin. She's a legend. And when I went to ADCC, I had very low expectations about how I was going to go. I was just happy to be there. I was happy to be backstage, seeing everybody. I was happy to be, you know, enjoying, like, seeing these athletes go through that process and getting the opportunity to go out there on the stage, but didn't think that I was going anywhere. And then got out there, started my match, and actually felt like, had that moment of, fuck, I could do much better than I thought I could. You had that realization of, no, I'm on this level, like, I'm at this level, but I just need a little bit more, which is like, I just wasn't pulling any triggers. I wasn't backing myself. I wasn't confident. Lost that match. And then that kind of kickstarted me into, no, I'm there. Like, I'm at that level. I just need to build some confidence. I need to build some mat time in front of that kind of audience and come back stronger. You know, those matches are the biggest ones. My Brazilian nationals match against Meister in the finals. You know, I did well and then just made a mistake in the last 10 seconds. And that played rent free in my brain to this day. Like, it just, like, it was something that's like, I just need to dial those small things in, because it's the difference at that level. Those small, tiny little decisions that can be the difference between you winning this massive title and not. And it only comes with locking in, putting time and energy into it.
Cool. And you're about to fight Ffion Davies. I'd love to know what this match means to you.
It means a lot, obviously, but it's also the next match. Also just the next match in a long list of matches that I'm going to have as well. And it's part of my journey in building my legacy. I'm very excited for this match. I was excited for it when it was supposed to be in March, whenever it was supposed to be. But now I just get a bonus extra little bit of time to further dial in those things and get back even stronger and faster and better, so that I'm ready by the time it swings around on the 29th of May. It's the next match in the journey. That's what it is.
Lovely. It's probably a hard thing to quantify, but do you have a checklist to be the greatest of all time? Do you have a moment that you cross over that line? I'd love to know from both of you what that means to be the greatest of all time.
For her?
Yeah.
The greatest
grappler of all time.
So not just the greatest female?
We can do both.
She's pretty close to being the greatest female.
Yeah.
You know, she's got a couple more things we need to do, and then she'll probably go back to the gi a little bit and do some things there. And then that'll definitely solidify it. To be the greatest ever, I think it's consistency over time. I don't think it's so much about the wins. She has to get the titles for sure, but you also have to be consistent over a long period of time. Like she said, she hasn't got her first degree on her black belt yet. So I don't think you can consider her the greatest ever yet, because she's so young, you know, like, and Andre has competed for so many years consistently that's the kind of conversation, you know. Gordon obviously with the no gi, and Hodger with in the gi, and Bushesha, you know, they're winning titles over 10 years, you know. She's done it in a very short period, but for her to cross that line, I think it's longevity in the sport. But to be the greatest female, look, I don't think we're very far off. But we also don't want to check that box and I say we, she says we, but I don't want to check that box. We check that box. And a younger female grappler, and this might be selfish of me and her, be like, oh, I can achieve that. No, we want to set that box set that bar so high that it looks nearly impossible, that you're really going to have to do something exceptional to take that away, you know? So like for her, and we're very lucky that they brought back the women's absolute, that she was able to get 2 ADCC golds. You know, I think Kira's the only one that's got 3, right?
Yeah.
So like one more and we've already done it within 3 ADCCs. So like that's not too far, you know, it's reachable. She gets 6 or 7, you know, you start looking at that going like, is it? So that's what I see for
Yeah. But I'm Adele, what are your thoughts?
I'm old, I'll be done by then.
he keeps saying he's gonna retire. Every time it's another title, he's like, oh, okay, I'm done. And then it's another thing comes up and he's like, oh, maybe not. Maybe I'll come to this one. Maybe one more. No, I agree with Jake. I think it would be silly to set a definitive mark on this is, because then there's this temptation of, you know, you get there and you're like, oh, okay, I can relax. No, I have a target on my back. There are people chasing and there are people thinking that what I'm doing is an attainable thing for them. And our job is to make it so that it's not, so that it's so far out of the realm of possibility that it's just, you can't argue it. And that's what we're trying to achieve. And I'm only at the beginning of that and I have a lot of years to go to keep pushing that further and further and further and further as far as I can.
Yep, lovely. I'd love to wrap it up with one question. Any advice you have for young athletes coming up that want to make this sport their livelihood?
Me?
For both of you. We'll start with you, Jake.
Yeah, surround yourself with the right people, you know, and that might not be the first gym you walk into. It's okay to leave gyms and go and find the right people. Find the people that are really supportive and caring of you, you know, that want you to achieve your goals for you, not for them. You know, I think that's super important. And then also just, you know, don't take this as such an amateur sport anymore. If you really want to make a living out of it, or if you really want to do something in this sport, everybody around you might be doing that, and that's okay, but that's up to them. You know, if you really want to make that next leap and cross that line, you're going to have awkward conversations or awkward interactions or have people think you're doing the wrong thing. You know, like when I started helping her trying to be a professional years ago, people still do it, but they think I'm stupid. They're like, oh, why? She's not getting paid that much. Okay, she's trying to be the best ever. So like, you're going to hear that stuff. Just let it go. Just keep believing in yourself. Keep doing what you're doing. And like, it's achievable. You know, I think the question I got asked the most after ADCC is like, how did they impact your lives, myself and Adele's? For me, it wasn't impactful in terms of like day to day, but what Adele did for everybody, especially in Australia, was open the door to show that it's possible. You know what I mean? Now it's up to them to walk through it. Now we walked through it and she's running. She wants to open more, but the door's open now. You know what I mean? So if I was at like my daughter, I don't care if she competes ever. She spends a lot of time with Adele. They have a great relationship. She can see that if she wants to do something and she works at it hard, it is achievable, no matter how much people tell her it's not. I think that's super important, you know, and I think that's above the gold medals, above the titles that she's won, whatever. I think the impact that Adele has had with that is what I'm most proud of and what I would try and pass on to everybody else, you know?
Lovely. The door's open. You just got to walk through it, right? Or run through it, as Adele is. Adele, your thoughts to the young grapplers?
I think the biggest thing that Jake did a fantastic job drilling into me is treat yourself like a professional. Like, going in and training is the easy part of jiu-jitsu. Like, realistically, we do jiu-jitsu because we enjoy it. So getting onto the mats and doing a session and being told what to do, that's easy, right? It's all the other things around it. Are you going onto the mats with some kind of intention on improving a particular skill? Mm-hmm. Are you planning your sessions? Are you doing your tape study? Are you know, coming in early to make sure that your body is warm by the start of class? Are you know, getting strength conditioning? All these things that I think get so overlooked. I see so many very talented athletes come into jiu-jitsu, but they do a hard session a day and they go, fuck, like, it's so hard being a jiu-jitsu athlete. I know this is the easy part. It's all the other shit that's hard. It's like when I go to ATOS, comp classes at 7 a.m. in the morning. Like, I'm not a morning person. I can't think of anything worse than waking up at 6 a.m. to get there and make sure that I'm ready to go by 7 a.m. When I'm in San Diego, when we went, we do not miss a session. I could wake up tired, but I'm in there. It does not matter. Like that shit's the hard part. It's doing things we don't want to do on the days we really don't want to do it. But it's treating yourself like a professional. You have to have enough respect in yourself to treat yourself like a professional. You have to make sure that the team around you is behaving and treating you like a professional as well. And that if you do all those things, then you'll reap the benefits of the hard work and dedication you put in. You know, motivation peaks and troughs and moves around. Dedication needs to stay consistent. There's no, like, dedication cannot drop off. It needs to stay the same.
Treat yourself as a professional. Lovely. We'll wrap it up then. Thank you so much for your time, Adele. Jake, thank you for your time. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.